appreciate you talking to me about this. I really found this movie surprising and unexpected and so interesting, and I appreciate that very much.
I think that is one of the many qualities that Anders Thomas has as a filmmaker, is that we're watching something and we're not sure where it's going, but we want to see the whole thing.
Yeah, I loved that I didn't know where it was going. I wasn't even entirely sure exactly what genre it was. I loved all of that. I just thought the relationship dynamics are so different and interesting.
I agree.
I'm glad you like it. I mean, it's not always the case. You know, a lot of there's sort of two kinds of cinema. I think the ones where you get exactly what you expect, and the ones where you are surprised, and both of them are totally fine. But I definitely like the latter myself.
What was your first experience like working and collaborating together, and how did it compare this time? Does it change the more you work with somebody?
We've done 5 films together, and I think it's changed in the sense that we have changed. We've become older, but the way the amount of enthusiasm and ideas and calling each other in the middle of the night has not changed. This is pretty much the same. I do tend to feel quite young when I do films with Anders Thomas, and then really old when we wrap it up.
I totally agree with everything the man is saying. It's that is how it is. I mean, for me, it's I always get happy when I feel that I'm nervous also still, because it's as a screenwriter, I'm not always nervous like I was, when I was young. But when I'm directing, doing the films with Mads and the other guys, it's a great feeling to actually care. I mean, that you're there and you get nervous. That's just, you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Was the humor something that you always wanted in the story, or did the humor surprise you? And why do you think humor is important when it comes to telling a story like this?
Humor is, I feel the same way in life. I could never befriend a person who didn't have humor. It's unthinkable to me. So humor is part of life. And when we go when bad things happen and darkness descends, humor is, for me anyway, it's very much a part of surviving. So when you tell these dark stories, of course humor has to be in there. And actually, Mads, he normally says that you could also tell this in a more sort of keep it dramatic and a bit pretentious. But when you're dealing with these great themes, anyway, I couldn't imagine these themes come across without humor and a little sugar on the spoon. It would, first of all, perhaps be more banal, but also I don't think I could watch it, nor less write it or do it. So humor is everything to me.
But that's also the thing that if you take it on face value, that you will really fast end up with a film where people are aware of their own issues, and that there will be a lot of dialogues where we touch upon the difficulties of life, and the existential troubles you will face, and that can end up as not dramatic and banal. But if you stay with characters who are, should we say, not one-dimensional at all, but definitely they have some very strong characteristics, then you can have characters who are not asking these questions, but they're just living in it. And we as an audience gets a chance to scream at them and say, look in the mirror, and I think that's more dramatic sometimes.
Did it almost feel like you were shooting different movies depending on the day, whether you were shooting this father-daughter relationship or you were shooting these oddly, very violent scenes, or this group of really sort of eclectic guys together? Did it feel kind of like you were making a bunch of different movies?
But it always does. Since the first movie we did together, Flickering Lights, is also, there's every genre in there. Back then, I actually made it on purpose because I wasn't sure I was ever allowed to make another film, so I wanted to try to make at least one Western scene and one action scene. But it's always like this, and there are days where you think, what the fuck are we doing? Because this will it will never stick together. It's very, very, especially on this one, because we have these highly dramatically, totally naturalistic drama scenes. And then we have the gigs over here, we have actions. And so it was definitely, it's fun. It's fun to get up in the morning and see what are we doing today.
It's rare there's not a link to all the genres in one scene. I mean, there is quite a few with my daughter and me. I would say in the beginning, at the hospital, certain things. But then again, there's other scenes that could easily be as serious. But then there's one character that's just annoying in the scene, and then he gets slapped on the mouth, and that just becomes, whoa, what happened there? It's way too much. But there is always a little link to the other genres within the scenes.
Yeah, almost. But when we shot the scenes down in the ending, that's when up and the scene in the bathroom where you.
Oh, sure.
Stuff, and I can't remember what, but we did some comedy scene right before, and the day before we did some action on the set. I actually had the feeling there that you get a little nervous.
Right, I get it. But that's your job. I just put my life in your hands and I just go for it. So you figure it out.
Mads, I love that you can go from playing a character like Hannibal to doing a film like this, and then it's announced that you're going to be a part of Indiana Jones. What was your reaction when being a part of something as iconic as Indiana Jones came up as a possibility? Were you a fan of those films? Was it something you were excited about?
I'm very, very excited about it. And I know for a fact that Anders Thomas, who's sitting here, I think that's maybe the film that wanted him to become a director. And I rewatched the first one, The Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is so well done. It's so charming, and it's such great storytelling. So yes, it's obviously it's a great honor to be part of that franchise that we grew up with.
Did you get to read a script before saying yes to that, or is it cast and James Mangold that gets you interested?
No, no, I did read a script. I'm in a lucky position where they do let me read the script before. And yes, it was everything I wished it to be. So that was just great.
When you do something like that, do you feel like you get to make a character your own, much like you do with a movie like this, or is it very different, the approach to getting, embodying a character? Yes, I do think that I'm invited in to create a character. I think that everybody wants that. That's why they pick certain actors that they think that can come up with certain things, and there will be a collaboration, as it always is. But interesting enough, again, a little like Anders Thomas's film, this one, Riders of Justice, there is a kind of a genre mix in Indiana Jones always. There is something that is a little larger than life characters, almost back to the 30s of was it Peter Law kind of feel. And then you have Indiana Jones that kind of is a straight man, but he also he does produce a lot of funny and interesting things. But there are different character genres in some of those films, and that is interesting to try to find that balance. Can you say anything about the character you're playing in that, or is that I can definitely do that, but then you will have to find me in a lake tomorrow with some blocks on my feet. You'll suddenly get dragged out of the screen that you're in right now. Exactly, the hand comes. Well, after you guys doing a few films together now, are you hoping to team up again? Is it something you talk about? Is it more just if you write a project and it'll work for Mads? Like, how do you guys do that?
I'm done with him.
No, that's it. It's over.
I always, I don't, it always takes a little while because normally I work as a screenwriter. That is my main profession. So it's once in a while I direct a film. But I will definitely, once I have something that is readable, try to send it to him and see if he's still available or if he's only doing Indiana Jones from now on. But no, but it's an interesting thing because I think we have done, you always find people who say, well, it's just the same as last time. But we have touched upon very different characters now in our working relationship. So no matter what, there will always be some little fraction of a character in there that
a lot of writers, you know, picture somebody when they write for them, and so please do that again. That's what I'm trying to say.
But it's not this thing, because I thought about it. It's always with that when directors use the same actors, they get this. So why don't you use some other? But you never hear it with a rock band, right? I mean, a rock band, they can just play for 30 years. Nobody says, why is he still singing?
No. Is John Lennon? Is John Lennon part of that still? Can't they just swap him out?
Of course, they do get new drummers because he always dies in the pool at some point. But there's a convention there that you have to sort of change your actors. But I see it differently because, especially when you have as gifted actors as Mads, and we still haven't done a complete psycho. So we might want to do that.
Or a complete drama. There's lots of years ahead of us.
Mads, your career really is all over the map with the kinds of roles you do, the size of the films you do. You do films in different languages. Mm-hmm. Is that something that's important to you? Is it just you're going where the work is? How is that for you? Is it something you have made a really sort of conscious effort and choice in having that kind of variety?
No, I mean, it's a balance I'm really, really pleased with. And I would say that it's actually, I think all actors would say, yeah, I would love that. You know, it's a perfect balance for me. But unfortunately, it's not always the case for everyone. But a necessity, maybe it is a necessity for me to work in Denmark at least once in a while, because it is my mother tongue. It is my stories. It's my friends, and it's a different feel. But I mean, if this can go on back and forth forever, I'm just super happy.
I will add to that because he doesn't know himself very much. I know few actors that are so. Mads chooses on the character and the story. He's so much into the story always, and he doesn't say no a lot to a lot of people, of course. But you always without. It sounds as if you don't know it, but you are very much, you know exactly what you want to do and what characters that you find interesting. And that's, and then of course, you will land in different countries and different films.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just helping him.
No, but that's true. I mean, the story is the most important part. And then comes the character, and then comes the people around you. But they have to be, I mean, you have to be able to communicate with your director somehow on some level where you know this is going to be fruitful.
As a filmmaker, what is it about Mads and what he brings as an
Here
actor?
we go.
I mean, do you have him in your head when you write certain characters, or do you write a script and then think, oh, maybe he would be good for this, and sort of mold it to him if he says, I'm available to do that?
First of all, I really don't like the phrasing have him in my head, because I don't like that idea that I should. But,
it's a better spot than anywhere else in your body, so to say.
But apart from that, no. I honestly, like I said before, I like to work with the same people, and it's an ongoing thing. We build on characters we've done before, and there are a lot of these things I do that I wouldn't dare to venture into without knowing that I had not only Matt, but the group of actors around me. So that's the one thing. But also I'm also how do you say, inspired by him, and he's a good actor. I hate to do this when he's here, you know.
He's suffering so hard, you can tell, and I'm just enjoying it.
I mean, it's like,
come on, let it out.
Yes, Mads is the perfect actor. He takes responsibility for the whole film. He can do what, I mean, he is, and he's very physical. He can, I mean, see the ending of Another Round. I mean, he makes people cry with like dancing. No, not many can do that. And see the beginning of it, where he builds a feeling so slowly in the scene. It's he is ridiculously good. So, and I'm not going to say
enough
more.
Is enough.
Now, this character is not really only the straight man in the story. He's really the very stoic man in this story. Was it ever a challenge to play that, especially with so many other wacky things happening? Or is it just sort of another challenge that you approach playing
No,
something?
no, I think that it was, I mean, had he not been, I mean, I wouldn't say the word stoic. I think that something is imploding or exploding inside of this character from the get-go. And that is very different than stoic. Stoic is almost like it's just going over your head, right? But that's not the case with him. Something is boiling, right? And for that reason, I think it was an easier straight man to play than another one who was just always confused what's happening. This guy, my character, could always he could accept the insanity for a while, but he would cut through it because he was on a mission, right? And I think that in general, I think we would have approached it differently, Thomas and me. We would have found some other cracks throughout the scenes in the first hour, had we not had the scene in the bathroom where he completely breaks down and becomes a small child who's helpless. Did we not have that scene, we would have done different things with the character throughout the film. But because we had it, we could stick to his path, and I think that was a key scene for the character.
What has it been, Mads, to have an experience like doing something like Fantastic Beasts, where you step into a role that had already been originally played by somebody else? Is that a different approach for you as an actor to figure out how to make that character your own, or are you figuring out how to build on what was already done?
So nobody's interested in me going in there and trying to copy anything. That would be creative suicide immediately, especially when it's been done before and mastered fully. So everybody's expecting us to find a different path. Having said that, we need a bridge between what he did and what I'm going to do. So those bridges we have to find together, whether it's a certain look, whether there's a certain attitude in certain situations, but you have to make it your own. Anything else would be plainly just creatively stupid.
What was it that made you want to do something like that? Because it seems like an opportunity that doesn't come along very often.
Yeah, that is one reason. No, I'm a big fan of the Potter universe, and it's a kind of genre that you don't touch upon in my part of the world. It's just no go. I mean, you can't get away with that budget-wise in Denmark. So obviously, when it came my way, it was just a fantastic opportunity.
Considering how many villains you've played, are you extra cautious before doing another one? Is there something that you need to see in a character to make it feel fresh and new for you?
No, it's got to be fresh and new, or just a slight angle. I mean, there's only that many different things you can do in your life. Somebody said there's only 7 stories in history, right? And so it is with characters. You will always overlap somehow. You gotta have, the genre might be different, so the approach will be slightly different. I'm not concerned with it at all. I mean, people are talking about another round now, and so they can go back and talk about a villain I'm doing next year, and then they're talking about Riders of Justice now, and then they can talk about a third villain. So I'm not concerned at all. I would be concerned if I wasn't working at all. So I'm just really grateful that it's happening.
Anders, what inspires stories for you? What started this story? What is it where do you get inspiration from? Is it from everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's most of the times it is actually from a character. It will be a character. But I mean, yeah, but I mean, I tend to, I mean, it more and more it's becoming themes. I mean, which is, I guess, it's for a lot of writers is where it all starts, a theme that you want to explore. And it definitely was with this story. So it's, but I mean, I'm very, how do you say, unconscious about what I do. I just try to go along with whatever feels right on the day, and I write a lot, and suddenly there's something that I want to explore further, and it sometimes it eventually ends up.
It's a humble way to answer that one. I mean, are you familiar with the Gary Larson, the Far Side Gallery?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Anders Thomas has the same approach to life. There's a certain absurdity in life that Thomas is constantly seeing, often where the rest of us do not see it. And I think that he didn't put it in his answer, but I'll do it. I think that is a very big driver of everything, all the stories he's telling us.
Are you someone who is writing all the time and just sometimes those things get finished and you make a film, or how does that work for you?
No, I mean, I do have a lot of projects, and I do write a lot compared to some of the other writers I know. But it's it's not even scripts. It's just like I'll do a scene, or I mean, I'll just explore a character. For instance, I'm fascinated with people that lie to themselves. I mean, if I run into it can be a lot of. I mean, if I get a parking ticket, I will normally, to get the anger out, I will go home and write a scene about that guy who gave me and try to explain why he is like he is. So it's just, I like writing. So that's, but it goes like this, actually. There's like times for inspiration and then when you have enough stuff, you can sort of feel I have enough. I have a theme. I'm beginning to have some characters. Then I'm very structured, and I sit down and I will try to do a script. So yeah.
And when do you know that it's something you want to actually direct?
Very early on, I would say. I mean, back in the old days, I used to say that it's because nobody else wants to do these stories. I had to direct them myself. But it's there are just some themes that speaks to me more. But I mean, I've had others. I've had stories like In a Better World, which I wrote for Susanne. I think I was half through that to do it myself when I discovered there's absolutely no comedy in this, and I sort of teamed up with Susanne and finished it. And so it's very much the good thing about my life and this job is until now it actually hasn't been the same two times. So it's very that's really few people can say that about their job, right? That it's new every time. So.
Well, I appreciate you both talking to me about this film. I really enjoyed all of these colorful characters. So I thank you for talking to me about it.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for talking to us. Thanks.